Hello, Wendy. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Russell.
Great. Well, it's great to have you with us. I suppose one of the most active areas of ecclesiastical law in the Church of England is the faculty jurisdiction. And a key part of the process in faculty petitions is the work of the Diocesan Advisory Committee. So really grateful to you, Wendy, as DAC Secretary in the Diocese of Guildford, for spending a few minutes giving us a little window into a day in the life of a DAC Secretary. I suppose the first question, the obvious one to start with, is how long have you been DAC Secretary?
So I've been DAC Secretary now in Guildford Diocese for 9 years from the 1st of May. So that's quite a long time. Prior to that, I was in Winchester Diocese and I was in the DAC there, Church Buildings Officer, for a few years before. So I've been doing DAC work now for about 12 years, I'd say.
Right, fantastic. So lots of experience in how it all works. Well, the viewers we get are from not just the Church of England, but other people interested in ecclesiastical law, and indeed from all over the world. So I suppose a good place to start would be to talk about what the purpose of the committee is. Why do we have a Diocesan Advisory Committee in the Church of England, in each diocese?
Okay, so obviously in the Church of England and in other denominations, there is what we call ecclesiastical exemption. So rather than having to get listed buildings consent for work to your buildings, we've got the faculty jurisdiction process. Sorry. So as a part of that, each diocese has to have a Diocesan Advisory Committee for the care of churches and churchyards in order to advise the Chancellor on cases that come before them. So it's a bit like planning permission for churches, really. So that's the role of the DAC, is to look at all the cases that come before them and to either recommend them to the Chancellor or not, as the case may be. And then that's a whole different process then.
Right, great. And the Chancellor, of course, is the judge of the consistory court. So it's the Chancellor who makes the decision, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Your committee doesn't make the decision, as you say. You advise, and I suppose the clue's in the name, isn't it?
Exactly. Advisory committee.
Advisory committee. So who actually is on the committee? You're the secretary. Who else is on there?
Yep. So we've got a chairman at the moment. He's practically brand new, bless him. He joined in September, just when all the lockdown and everything's been happening. So he's hardly met anybody yet. So we've got the chairman. There's the 2 archdeacons are on the committee. We've got about 5 architects. We've got 2 structural engineers, and we've got 2 clergy. And then we've got a whole load of sort of advisors. So we've got a lighting advisor, heating advisor, organ advisor, textiles, archaeology, bells. So a whole range of specialists that also sit on the committee. And then a couple of lay people as well. So it's a whole broad range of people, which makes for some very interesting meetings.
Sure, absolutely. But it sounds like you've got a good range of expertise to draw on.
We do. The only thing we haven't got at the moment is an AV consultant, which we really need.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And how often does the committee meet?
So we meet once a month. Our particular committee meets on the first Thursday of every month. Generally speaking, apart from January, when we have the month off because it's too close to Christmas. So yeah, so we meet 11 times a year.
Fantastic. And besides the sort of official meetings where I guess you make the decisions, the times that the clergy, PCC members and others are most likely to meet the committee is at site visits. Yeah. So how often do site visits happen?
Well, it varies really, and depending on the casework. We obviously, all through the pandemic, there was no site visits, but we've just started them again. So we actually had 2 site visits yesterday. So we tend to try and pack them in on the same day as much as possible to get as many visits in. But yeah, no, they're really, really important, actually, the site visits. And we try and get, particularly if it's going to be a difficult case, So you're looking at your grade 1 listed churches, obviously, particularly. So we like to get in as early as possible to try and make sure that we're all working on the same page. And it's also a way of connecting with the parishes. We really like to be able to sort of be seen by them, so they know that actually we're on their side. We're not there just to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. My own experience is that getting the DAC involved in a project that the parish is developing at a really early stage is helpful in getting, different perspectives, advice, expertise, and I've found that when we've done that, and sometimes that's been several site visits, as you know, when finally we get to submit the petition, it sails through because we've had those conversations and sorted out the problems at an early stage.
Yeah, exactly. It's really helpful. Yeah.
And as well as faculties, as DAC Secretary, are you at all involved when people want to make changes to churches that come under List A and under List B?
Yes, it all comes through me in the first instance. So they're not supposed to go straight to the Archdeacon. He'll just wing them back my direction. So yeah, and of course it's all done online now. So that all comes through me. So yeah, we don't get that many people applying for actually the List A's because they don't actually need to.
Sure.
But I do say, if anybody's not sure, please, obviously ring me or email, just so that we know that what they're doing is actually List A, because sometimes you'll get an application come through on the online system and they'll be putting it through as List A, and I look at it and think, no, no, you need to go and do either List B or faculty for that one. So
I mean, sometimes if it's ambiguous, if it's List A, it's handy just to have an email so you know what one can be sure. And I think what Guildford Diocese does with List B is that it goes through you, but I think other dioceses probably do that a bit differently.
Yeah, probably. Yes.
So what kind of faculties do you find the DAC spends most of its time considering?
They tend to be the bigger projects.
Yep.
So the reorderings and the extensions, the removing of the pews, the AV systems all going in. So obviously they can be quite intrusive. They tend to be the main things these days. So we've got quite a few of those going on. We've had some major projects in the last few years which have taken a considerable amount of their time. So I think since the lists have been introduced, it's actually allowed the DACs to spend more time on those bigger projects, because the meetings tend to have less on the agenda, which is great. So we're able to focus more on those bigger projects. So that's what we do tend to spend most of our time doing these days, and mainly at the moment it's AV and things like that, because of the live streaming and stuff at the moment.
Right, sure, of course. I mean, that's one of the things I was going to ask about. Has COVID affected the work of the DAC? You've already mentioned not being able to make site visits, but it sounds like it's changing the focus of the petitions that people are wanting. What they're wanting to put fixed cameras into live stream services. Yeah,
absolutely. So we're seeing a lot of that at the moment. So a lot of tech is going in. Which is great, because it's necessary for the parishes to continue with their mission and their ministry. So yeah, we're trying to be as helpful as we can to get them to do that. And actually, for getting broadband into the church, the Chancellor has agreed that we can do that as an additional matters order type scenario. So it doesn't need a faculty, so we can get them to do it as quickly as they need to. So that's all going very well, I think, at the moment. Yeah, so a lot of that.
Right, that's great. And then I suppose the other, besides COVID, obviously was such a big thing at the moment, the other very topical issue is the General Synod's net zero carbon target. Has that started to affect your work as well?
Yes, it has. It's been quite a topic of discussion on the DAC for quite a number of meetings so far. We're in the process of trying to come up with a strategy on how we can help parishes to think about these things, and obviously specifically when it's coming to heating systems and that sort of thing. there's a lot of discussion going on right now about, you know, the introduction of gas boilers or not, as the case may be right now, and the technology, whether it's there yet or not, and how we can encourage parishes to go greener. So yeah, that's I've seen quite a lot of webinars on this subject recently, I have to say. So and we've got an environmental advisor now on the DAC as well. So it's every application coming our way at the moment is with that in mind as well.
Right.
So,
sure. And a developing area, I guess. Case of watch this space.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Yes. So.
Great. Oh well, Wendy, thank you so much for giving your time today. It's been really interesting chat. Just to give that window. I mean, a lot of people involved in ecclesiastical law, of course, read about the DAC, but it's really good to hear a bit about how it really works and the sort of things that are going on. And
yeah, it's a very interesting job, I have to say. I absolutely love it, and no day is the same. So.
That's great. Well, thanks again, and see you soon.